in general influence the present, about which so much in the West are frankly ignorant. By wedding Moffat's educational theory to electronic pedagogy, this practicum, based on many of the theories of Mr. Gulen, could create the kind of dialogue necessary for world peace. As I have indicated, students in such communities engaging across time and space in dialogue could reassemble those pieces of Mr. Gulen's universal mosaic into a composite that would bind all together in much greater commonality than that envisioned by the short-sighted polemicists that believe in the inevitable clash between East and West. Let me conclude by sharing with you one of Moffat's observation, which reminds me so much of Mr. Gulen's message. And I quote, "As we know, so we identify. If we know as we identify, then the more broadly we identify, the more we know." Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gage. In second presentation, Dr. Mark Webb. Dr. Mark Webb is a professor of philosophy at the Texas Tech University in Lubbock. He especially focuses on epistemology and the philosophy of religion. His articles have appeared in the Journal of Philosophy, Religious Studies, the International Journal for Philosophy of Religion, and other journals. His title is Incremental Hope, the Gulen Movement in Diyarbakir, Elazığ, and Malatya as a model for social reform. Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Koch. Thank you, dear friends, for being here and for allowing me to speak. So let me begin. This paper comes out of a trip I had the good fortune to make to Eastern Turkey last summer, where I interviewed lots of people, met with parents, students at the schools, sponsors, all kinds of people involved in the Gulen movement in that part of Turkey. And I began to wonder, as I was talking to these people and observing what the movement does there, is this something that we could export to the rest of the world, as it were? Is this something I could bring to Lubbock, Texas, to make a difference to what's going on there? So, as you all know, the Gulen movement is not formally led by Mr. Gulen. In fact, it's a very informal, structureless thing itself. No formal rules of admission, no formal standards of membership, no jointly owned resources. It's a remarkably unified, spontaneous grassroots movement among people to marshal resources, especially capital, but also all kinds of resources, human resources, to address particular social problems, to make the world a better place, in short. They've done this in many ways. They've started hospitals, they've started media outlets, the newspaper Zaman, Samanyolu TV, magazines, but probably the main enterprise has been in education, starting schools and other educational institutions. These institutions in Eastern Turkey have been credited with the sharp reduction, or at least as partial cause, the sharp reduction in terrorism in Eastern Turkey. Now, if this is true, that is a strong testimony to the value of this kind of movement. And so if we can apply this model elsewhere, this will be a great thing. So what I want to look at is, first of all, what are the things that the movement does in terms of education? How does it apply resources to education? does it make this kind of difference? And if it does, can we do this elsewhere? Now, there are a lot of different ways throughout history people have theorized about what is the best way to intervene in a society to improve things, to take care of problems. What are the most basic problems with human beings, and therefore what is the best prescription to solve those problems? I like to think of it this way, that there's basically three kinds of theories, three kinds of understandings of what makes for difficulties in human societies, and therefore what's the best way to intervene to solve problems. One kind of theory you might call the political theory or the legal theory. And that's the idea is that the problem with human beings is they've got the wrong institutions. They don't have the right kind of politics or the right kind of leadership or the right kind of legal system or things like that. On the other hand, the other kinds of theories put the problem not at the level of institutions, but at the level of individuals. So that what's wrong is something is wrong with individuals, and so the way to solve the problem is to address something with individuals. One of those views is the view that human beings are sort of basically okay, they're on the right track, but what they need is the right kind of education and training. So that good education can go a long way to ameliorating human problems. In America, in American history, Thomas Jefferson was a proponent of this view. He famously thought that, in fact, the only way a democracy can succeed is with an educated electorate. But also, in fact, that if you do have an educated electorate and a democratic system, that that's the best remedy for all kinds of problems in human societies. John Dewey, also, the philosopher, was a proponent of education as the solution to most problems. There's one other kind of theory, not as popular, but I want to mention it in the name of completeness. Some think that the problem with human beings goes much deeper. It's not just a matter of not having the right education, but it's a matter of having the wrong kind of nature or something, right? The wrong kind of basic psychology. And so what we need is a deep change. In ancient China, again, the Taoists thought that there was something deeply wrong with human culture, and the way to solve our problems was to get away from that by undertaking a different relationship to the universe. I think it's obvious from what's been said before that Mr. Gülen falls in this educational category, that he wants to say the best place to put our resources to try to make things better is in education. The movement has put resources into all kinds of educational institutions, not just elementary schools, high schools, and universities. And I think this is one of the most telling things about the commitment to this sort of solution. There are institutions that help prepare for the nationwide university entrance exam. After all, how the rest of your life goes depends largely on how you perform in that exam, and so it's very important for people to be prepared. And so people in the movement contribute resources to make sure that no one does badly on that exam for the wrong reason, that is to say, for not having resources, for not having money, so that everybody is able to compete well. And as a result, this is one thing that's measurable, the scores on those exams for people in the East have gone up. This can't be a coincidence, this can't be an accident. And many other institutions too. Another thing that's notable about these institutions, though, and this is something I found talking to the students and the parents, and also some of the school administrators and sponsors, is the relationship the teachers have to their jobs. The teachers were the big difference. The curriculum's the same. It's dictated by law. The teachers were the difference. Why Diyarbakir, Elazığ, and Malatya? Well, Diyarbakir was for a long time the headquarters of the PKK, the Kurdish Workers' Party, which